We have a vote at 11:30, but I think we can go for a while. Let me ask you, Attorney General Shapiro, you just heard Mr. Vasquez say that you ought to be focusing on gun trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
Do ghost guns impede your ability to go after gun traffickers?
Not at all, Mr. Chairman. We can walk and chew gum at the same time in Pennsylvania, and we do just that. We have special units in my office dedicated to gun trafficking. I formed a special alliance, for example, with New Jersey Attorney General Gurbir Grewal, and we launched an initiative to focus on gun trafficking between predominantly Camden and Philadelphia, where we recently had an Operation Zombie, which netted us more than 26 guns and shut down a gun trafficking ring there as well. We can do both. We're also finding that gun traffickers are trafficking in these ghost guns. And remember, typically, if you're a criminal and you are in need of getting a gun, you either need to rely on a gun trafficking network or rely on a straw purchaser to go in for you. Utilizing these ghost guns, which do not require a background check, you take the straw and the gun trafficker out of that equation, and the criminal can now buy the gun directly. So we can do all of the above, but we can't ignore ghost guns, which are a massive threat in our communities today.
You showed us the jig, which is, in a sense, the container that is used to make the frame by drilling holes that are pre-marked. Would you say there is any particular artistry or craftsmanship involved in making one of these frames using a pre-made kit of this kind?
No artistry, no craftsmanship, and Senator, very little skill is required. Let me tell you how it really works. You go to the gun show, you go over to table A, and you buy this. You then go over to table B, you get the other parts. And by the way, table B is this far away. And as I talked about in the example of the York County gun show, they'll assemble it for you right there. In fact, they had a criminal who was a white supremacist doing the work for you right there. So either they can do it for you there, or you could take it home, as was the example I used from Philadelphia, where they were buying them by the duffel bag load and assembling them there and then selling them for more than a 100% profit on the streets. I could have one of these put together within 20 minutes, and Senator, as my wife and kids will tell you, I'm not particularly handy. So if I can do it in 20, someone who's handy can do it in even less.
Mr. Spallina, you made reference to the prevalence of white supremacists, violent extremists making use of these ghost guns particularly. Why is that?
Well, Senator, these guns are optimal for those groups. They appeal to these groups precisely because they are an end run around our federal and state laws. So if you are trying to stay off the grid, if you are trying to amass an arsenal without even your local gun dealer getting wise to it, ghost guns are a perfect way of doing that. And then when you use those firearms in crimes or terrorist acts, they're untraceable, back to you or your group.
And I think you testified also about 3D printed guns. This is a new technology, spreading, more prevalent, and we should make clear that the proponents of these guns make the contention that they are harmless, they're hobbyists, but in fact, this kind of exception can swallow the rule involving background checks and all the other gun safety protections that we have. What is this 3D technology?
So 3D tech, and first let me just say, Senator, that the term ghost gun, which would apply to 3D printed guns or these unfinished frames and receivers, not a term that I made up. You can go to ghostguns.com or buy the Ghost Gunner. These are marketed this way precisely to people who are trying to avoid regulation. But 3D printed guns, just like other forms of ghost guns, take all the artistry, all of the skills out of it. With 3D guns, if you have a master file that's essentially the blueprints of the firearm, and you have the appropriate 3D printer, you can print either all or part of a firearm. It is newer technology. It is less available to the end user, but it is there, and we are seeing fully operational firearms printed either in plastic or in aluminum.
My last question on this round is to Commissioner Harrison. Commissioner Harrison, what kinds of crimes have you found that these ghost guns are involved in?
Thank you. We're finding them, first of all, there are a large number of people who are illegally carrying them on the street, transporting them in vehicles, but we are seeing a percentage of homicides and shootings being committed with polymer 80s. And so, for example, in 2020, 15 ghost guns were directly linked to a homicide or shooting, while in 2021, 15 were linked through ballistics to another gun crime, and 17 have been linked to violence. This year, we're seeing an exponential increase in the amount of ghost guns we are recovering. 83 so far. The majority of them are being transported around the city in vehicles, and they're being used to commit shootings and homicides. And we're seeing a large number of people under the age of 21 and a large number of people who are prohibited by law from possessing a firearm or purchasing a firearm, found in possession of them, and are using them in those homicides and shootings. Some of them are being left at the scene.
Thank you, Commissioner.